Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everyone's doing well. I apologize. I know that it's be on here at 5, but I think it's like 5:03 or 5:04. So I do apologize for running a couple minutes late. I was having some technical challenges, but I'll wait for a couple minutes for everyone to kind of jump on board. Let me know when you get on board, where you're from, where you're tuning in from, so we can kind of get things dialed in. I want to be able to answer some of your questions today. What's happening, Shane? I want to be able to connect with you guys a little bit and kind of see what challenges are that you're going on. I'm going to stay on here for about 30 to 35 minutes. So if you know people that are looking to learn and grow and transform the course of their life, and you want to bring them in, tag them on this video, bring them on board, and we can discuss some ideas, some concepts. I think some of the things I'm going to say to you today are probably going to open your mind. I want you to consider some of the ideas that I share with you. I guess I don't know the answers to it all. And I can't say that I do, but I want to at least give you some ideas and some concepts that Teresa's always watching my videos. I love it when Teresa's watching my videos. I want to give you some ideas and some concepts that maybe you can use and implore and put into your life. And I think that if you do, you'll see a massive amount of changes. I think you'll start noticing some massive changes. If you don't, though, it could leave you where you are. Now, I'm not saying where you are is bad by any means. I have no idea. I don't know who you are directly unless I have some interaction with you. But as these videos go out and information gets out there, I'm going to assume that you're watching this video because you want things to be better. You want things to grow. You want things to be in a different state. You want things to be at another level. Brandy, good to have you on here as well. And I'm going to share some ideas, at least this afternoon, that if you get, let me say this, if you get what I'm saying, it could transform the direction and trajectory of what you're talking about with your life. It really can. I know when I got it, when I just got these concepts and I understood them at another playing field, it transformed the direction of the way that I thought about things, the way I did things, the way I worked through challenges, and how I really directed the course of my life. And it's hard to, that's a pretty bold statement, I get that. George, Teresa, good having you on here. Ashley, good having you. Ashley and Desiree, good having you on here as well. But I want to talk about the idea of success. And you did hear me correctly. I did call it an idea. What is this idea of success? What is it? How does it work? Wanda, good having you on here. What is success? Right? Like, what does it mean? What does success even consist of? How does it exist? What is it? Where did we even come up with this idea of success? I want you to think about this, like from a real evolutionary standpoint. Where the hell did, like, we're ape men talking about, well, I'm more successful, I got a Beamer and you got, well, I'm riding the saber-toothed tiger, and my saber-toothed tiger has more muscle than not. Like, where did we come up with this idea of success and what it really means? From evolution, like, evolution doesn't talk about success. This is a human construct. Like, it was funny, I was sitting there today getting my coconut water, and Kathy, good having you on there as well. I was getting my coconut water, and there was a van parked right next to me, and there was this dog. I'm not joking. The dog was just staring at me. I was looking. It was like, and I swear it was like that picture of the dog, like just standing there staring at me. And I was thinking, this dog actually looks like he could sit there and be the driver of this car. And where do we get these ideas of success? And I thought about that. Like, where do animals don't think about success. Animals think on survival, and animals think on existence. But we as humans have created this idea and this concept, at least this construct, of success and what it means to us. So I guess you got to ask yourself the question when you think about success. Sheena, good having you on here as well. What is it? What does it really mean? How does it exist? And I'd love to hear your opinions and your ideas as we're going through this. Let me know. Type in here what do you think success really means, and how do you define it for yourself? Because most people have no clue. Most people just assume that they have the fear of failure. And when I talk to people and I ask people and I say, what is then the fear of failure? They don't know. Because if you don't have if you can't explain and describe what success means, how can you really illustrate what failure means? But most people will say that I have the fear of failure. Okay, what is that? How can you have that if you don't have a definition of success? One has to go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. And I'm going to talk to you about the two emotions as we go down a little bit further on the two emotions that are preventing you to create the idea and preventing you from actually having and achieving what it is you want out of your life. And I'll get to that in a minute. But Kathy's saying it's the success is true happiness. And what is true happiness? Well, I'm just going to debunk this right off the top. And if you're a student of mine, you know when someone says happiness to me, you're living in a fantasy all the way, because happiness is a myth and a delusion that doesn't really exist. And Buddha said many years ago, and he said the chase of the unsuffering, the chase of that which is unavoidable is the cause of human suffering. So if we know this, happiness is a myth that never exists. And we chase it endlessly, and it never turns into reality. And that's why I wrote this book called Chasing Success. And I'm not trying to plug it or anything like that, but it is kind of the premise of where this whole idea came from. But happiness in itself is a myth and a delusion. And I talk to my publicist all the time about this, and I say, I said, I want to go on media and say why happiness is a bloody myth, that it doesn't exist. You have moments of happiness, you have moments of sadness. You have moments of joy and moments of ecstasy and moments of failure and moments of not feeling that great. You have both sides as human beings. So where do we get this idea that happiness is the answer? And we get this from our forefathers. And I differentiate things, guys, and I'll say this, and I'm kind of layering in precluding to my next book that's coming out, is that there's definitions and uses of words called the masters, and how masters live in a very different way. And the masses, truly, they do live in a different way and have a different psychology. And the masters is what I share, what I've studied, what I've learned about. And masters people are people like Plato and Socrates and the people that are actually doing things with their life that are something inspirational. I call them the masters. That's how I define them. And they do things differently, and they define success differently. So Wanda says it's the activities that inspire her. And Wanda is a great student of mine, which is why she puts things like this down. Before that, she would never say things like that. I know, but she's right. At some level, success is doing the things that inspire you. That's great. So where's the end result of success show up? I guess you have to define that for yourself. What is success? Is there a thing called success? Because then you also have to put yourself into the paradigm of failure. And you have to understand then what failure means. Because if you are in the paradigm of success, you also are in the paradigm of failure. You can't have one without the other. Success is the value and service you give to others that improves their lives. Okay? George, the interesting thing is that I love that, but do you really think you improve people's lives? Or do you help them expand? I think that's what it comes up. Inspiring is listening to you. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Dr. G is on with us as well. Dr. G, the question is this, and Dr. G is a graduate and a student of mine, and just an amazing dude. I love this guy. The question is, what is success? And let me kind of keep going forward. You have to understand that if you're going to live in the paradigm of success, you're also going to live in the paradigm of failure. And one leads to the other. Because as soon as you become fearful of success, you also become fearful of failure. One doesn't exist without the other. So then you have to ask yourself, then what is failure? What does failure really mean to you? What does it exist? How does it exist? What is the definition of failure? And what is the psychology that's going to be correlated to that? See, because when you start chasing the idea of success, you actually become afraid of doing it. It creates immobility in your life. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to over the years, and in doing this type of work, that say to me that they're afraid of failure, and they're afraid of failing in their life. And I have to ask them the question. I said, then what is successful to your life? Because you're only going to do things that are more valuable to you. And if you see things to be more valuable, you're going to pursue it. But you're going to define that as someone else's belief. Let me say something to you about the idea of success and failure that I hope to crack some myths around it. You can never become successful or never become a failure in your own values in your own life. As soon as you put on the definition and the term of success or failure, you're now living on someone else's paradigm of your existence. Einstein said expecting a goldfish to run up a tree is going to call him a failure. As soon as you live in the paradigm of success and failure, you are a goldfish that is trying to go up a tree. Because you can't exist that way. Because as soon as you look for success, you're looking for something outside of you to approve of you. As soon as you call yourself a failure, you're now looking for someone else's approval from the outside to define you. Both are looking for something outside of you rather than within you. And success and failure are both paradigms of external living, not internal living. And that's why I say both the paradigm of success and failure is delusional, because the idea of success leads to your failure. Can't have one without the other. So your idea of success is eventually going to lead you to the paradigm of failure. Let me know if that makes sense before I move on, because I want you to get that. If you don't, ask me questions. This is a longer video that I'm shooting for you guys, because, or FaceTiming or whatever you call it, because I want you guys to get that. And people are so stuck in this idea of chasing success. I talk to people all the time, and it hurts me. And I was there, and I remember as a kid when I was going through and trying to chase the idea of success. What's happening, Brother Dale? Sean Dill, he's one of my friends and mentors, and he's watching us as well. The idea of success and failure are the paradigms that are causing you to fail, because the idea of success is externally driven, and the idea of failure is also externally driven. Now, both of them are from the outside in, and they're never from the inside out. True mission-oriented leaders are driven from the inside out. But most people are insecure of themselves and don't have the confidence in their own values on who they are. And what they do is they search outside of them for the others' approvals. And when they get the approval, they say they did something good. Now, they continually need the approval of others to continue to grow. And that leads a life of really a lot of mortality and aging and causing yourself a lot of sickness and agony. True wisdom starts with a mission, because people who are mission-oriented and who are driven by the idea of their mission will lead and create impact. People who are in the falsity of success and failure will have possessions. People who are mission-oriented will create impact. There's a vast difference besides this stuff. Because most people who are searching for success are looking for possessions and looking for someone's approval of that to say that you're good, you're qualified. For guys, it's cars a lot of times. For women, it's shoes and purses. And there's nothing wrong with having finer things in life. I'm not against that. Please, I'm the last person to say that. But when you've earned it through a mission, you've earned the right to it. If you've done it through the idea of success, what you're going to do is you're going to realize that you're going to keep chasing it because it's going to leave your heart. And truly heart-centered, mission-oriented leaders are looking to create impact. And that impact is going to be so powerful that it's going to create a surgence of people around you. And you won't have to search for business. People who are on missions don't search for business. They show up. But the problem is this, is that when you become focused simply on your success, there's two emotions that are created that take you out of presence. People who are mission-oriented are focused on the true state of their mission, and they're in a state of presence. And they're in a state of love and certainty and gratitude in that mission. However, people, and we all go through the fleeting states of this, I think, but most people who are trying to get success for the accolades create two emotions that stop them from growing. And these emotions are resentment and their guilt. Anything that you resent in your life, you're going to resist in bringing it into your life. So if you have a past relationship, past trauma with money, past issues with money, you've been fired from a job, lost money, anything that you perceive that has caused you more pain than pleasure in the past, you're going to create a resentment towards. And that resentment is going to create more agony and suffering in your life because you're going to prevent from getting what it is you want. Truth is that when you create that resentment, it's because of a feeling that you want to avoid. And you never want to experience that again. I told a student this morning who's been self-induced suffering, I'm going to call it, with a lot of challenges with their health and debt and finances and all these different things. And I explained to them that if you don't understand to be grateful for your debt, you're going to create resistance to your debt, which is going to create income stoppages into your life. Because whatever you're resenting, you're resisting the flow towards. And whatever you have guilt towards, you're giving away to. So if you have assets, possessions, things that you value, and you have guilt towards for someone, for something that you did in the past that you perceive you did that caused more pain than pleasure, then what you're going to do is you're going to give away, whether your time, your money, your energy, resources, whatever it is you perceive. Whatever is of value to you, you'll give away that. The true essence of success and failure and mission really fall under your own sense of your own presence and being. When you're in a state of presence and a state of who you are and understanding who you are, you don't have resentment of your past. You don't have guilt of your past. You can actually love and appreciate every step of who you are. Most people, guys, live in guilt. They just do. They live in guilt. They think that they've hurt more people. And that's why I say that if you say sorry, you'll do it again. And if you need forgiveness, you're in a state of pride. Because both of these are delusional states. And they're not true presence. If you need to look for forgiveness from somebody, you're in a state of pride. And you will continue to attract chaos into your life. If you're in a state of needing sorries, you're in a state of guilt and shame, and you'll give away to it. So please understand that what I'm trying to share with you is how to get to what it's going to take for you to not only have wealth and money and possessions. That's secondary, because I work with a lot of people, and I've worked with a lot of wealthy people, for that matter, CEOs of major companies and corporations, athletes, and they sit and tell me that they don't have fulfillment, and they don't have the true love of fulfillment in their life, and they sit in their lives and they're miserable inside of it. And I don't know. I'll ask you a question for you to consider, at least, and consider this idea, is if you could change the course of your trajectory of your life and have both money and fulfillment, is that what you would chase for? Would that be something that would be of value for you to have? Because I know that it's possible. I think that people don't realize that it's possible. They think they have to give up one for the other. And they don't realize that true presence and the true essence of who you are is in a state of abundance. And people are looking for abundance outside of them, but really it's about them. It's about an internal game, not an external game. So any questions you have, please go ahead and ask. I'll stay on here for a little bit longer, but I hope this has been making sense. I hope this has been of value so far in making sense of this. But the resentment that you have is preventing you from actually attaining. I talk to a lot of guys and women, even for that matter, who, I'll give you an example. I was talking to a great lady recently. Well, you guys are typing in some of the questions you may have through this. Because if you got all of this, man, you're a master, and geez, you're a genius. But if you haven't, then let's answer some of these questions for you. I was talking to a lady she basically had gone through a divorce in her life when she was about 25 years ago, and she was in a relationship with her husband, and her husband stopped, and like, I guess he had an affair or something like that, and then she helped him build a business that he ended up continuing onward and making lots of money, and she kind of was like 64, 65 years old, and looking at her life and saying, I divorced this guy 25 years ago, and here he is, he's thrived, he's lived this beautiful life and made all this money, and I've suffered and struggled in my entire life. And she was the victim in that scenario, and she played the victim in that scenario very well. And I asked her the question. I said, now that resentment that you've had, she's like, I don't resent him. And I said, really? I said, who are you trying to convince with that? Because she hated his guts. Like, she literally was like all about like, I can't stand this guy. I don't want to talk to him. I don't want anything to do with him. She's like, but I don't resent him. I'm like, what kind of delusional pill do you take, ma'am? And she's like, well, I said, so if I brought him into this room right now, you'd be able to love and embrace him and give him a hug and a kiss and love who he is. And she says, well, no, I don't ever want to see him again. I said, that's called resentment. That's called resentment inside of that. I said, that's not love and embrace. Anything that you wouldn't want your children to experience and go through, that's called resentment or guilt. Any agony that you've gone through that you wouldn't say, I want my children to go through that exact pain and pleasure so that they can learn and grow from, you have an emotion towards. So, PJ, good to have you on here. Looks like Sheena's answered your question, George. And this lady she didn't realize it. And I said, so she hasn't been in a relationship, has been now getting ready to retire, living in Social Security, and not realizing that what she's done in her life has stopped her from growing. And she now looks back at her life and says, I can't believe I allow myself to be that way. And the truth is most people don't know this. People don't realize this. People don't realize the psychology in what's happening inside of your life and how that prevents you from lifting and growing past your life. And I've been I've been down the roads where I did resent my ex for a long time until I didn't realize it. And it wasn't until I realized and become grateful for her did I learn to grow behind that. And Tushar, great to have you here. Anytime, brother. You know how to get a hold of me. But it wasn't until I got it and that I understood what it was, and things started to change, and I started to see that transition through my life. And I share that with you because many people go through relationships and challenges and agony, and they think that it has to be this way. And they realistically think hard work is going to be the answer. They realistically think, I'll just work harder and I'll go kick some more ass and I'll prospect more people and I'll go get more sales calls. And that's going to be the solution to me growing up and getting back on my feet. It's not true. Not true at all. That is an absolute myth. That's not true by any capacity. That resentment is lingering, and it's stopping you from growing. And you may come back to some degree, but you're not going to come back. You won't come back to the same degree that you were at until you understand it, grow beyond it, become grateful for it, so that you can use it something on the way rather than in the way. And if you can use that to get that on the way rather than in the way, you begin to grow your life. If not, you'll consider it as a roadblock. People have an emotional maturity of things. People think that when they grow, it's this physical maturity. Just because I'm older, I'm wiser. That's bullshit. That's complete bullshit. That's not true at all. I know people who are in their 70s but act like they're 12-year-olds. And you do too. That's the truth of it. So you have physical age, and then you have emotional age. If your emotional age doesn't match your physical age, you in essence create chaos into your life. And Wendy, good having you here. Tennille, I'm not going to say that just because it's a public video, but normally I'd say yes, thank you, you're welcome. But people have a physical age, and if their emotional age and their wisdom is not matching to that, you go through what's called an aging process. And that aging process is allowing your body to break down. I've said this for many years as a doctor, as a chiropractor and an alternative healer, and looking at the body from a holistic perspective. Disease has a purpose and a value to you. If you don't see what it is, it in essence breaks you down. And that whole thing, both resentment and guilt, are the chronic causes of people's conditions and their health conditions. So something to consider in your life and what you're doing. And I hope this has been something to consider for you, something to really realize and appreciate. Because sometimes people can get around this and your stories can get a hold of you again. And you can start living with the masses again. And I'm challenging you to come back and living in the world of the masters. Because the masters understand that there's no gain and loss, simply transformation. And if you can transform your life, then you can create the life of your dreams. If you can't, you'll be stuck. And don't be like that lady who's looking to now turn 65 and look back at her life and is turning on Social Security and could have done something amazing and inspired her life with it, and is now looking back at her life with regret. I think that's one of the hardest things and one of the biggest challenges people have, is that when they look back, they regret, and they don't realize they were the source of their regret. It wasn't somebody else, it was them. It's because they didn't learn how to emotionally master their life. And if you can do that, you can do whatever it is you want to. You can do whatever it is you want to. But if you get stuck and you don't, you're in essence going to create long-term chaos and potentially health challenges. And I can't promise you that, and I hope you don't. That's not what I'm trying to say by any capacity. But I want you to get that for the purpose of this video at least. Look, as always, I'm going to say this. We do a program. I do a program where I personally take people in and I personally work with them and I empower them. And I take people who've grown their income by $700,000 in the course of a year. I've taken someone who's grown by $60,000 in a month. Several people who've grown by $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a month in their business within the first 4 to 6 weeks. Excuse me, because it's never a matter of economy. It's a matter of psychology. And Emmanuel, you tagged me on a post today, and I saw that you're in Elgin, Illinois. I don't know if you know. But I'm in Hoffman Estates, just to give you a little bit of an insight of where I'm coming from. But I want you to know that your life, whether you choose to grow and live the life of a master or not, is really up to you. I'm just giving you some ideas and some strategies that may help you get through it, but more than anything, help you live an inspired life. And I think that's crucial. And that's what we do in this group, where we take people who've been raped and not just raped, but financially raped even, and gone through physical rapes and blockages and barriers and this invisible ceiling that's stopping you from getting you to where you want to go. Everyone has it until you know how to crack through it. And then when you learn to master it and get through it, you become someone like Tennille or Wanda who just explode like that overnight and create things out of thin air. And there's a mastery to this stuff. There's a mastery to this stuff. And people sometimes call me like the anti-personal development guy because I judge all these people and I'm telling people that, you know, I'm the anti-personal development guy. I guess I'm not into personal development. I'm into inspirational living. And if that makes me anti-personal development, great. If that makes me, you know, against personal improvement. There is no personal improvement. Why would you need to improve on perfection? Like, everyone talks about this higher being, but they say, well, I'm not perfect. Does that make any logical sense? How can you not be in perfection? That means you're judging yourself from the outside. That doesn't even add up. So something to consider with that. But look, if you're interested in getting on a call with me or one of my enrollment coaches, and you're looking to really crack through the ceiling in your life, I've studied this stuff more than anyone else I know. I've got $718,000 to this date in my brain of knowledge, information, and I continue to add to it. By the end of this year, we'll be at close to $750,000 I invest in my brain. One of my goals is to make it $1 million brain, which I think is kind of cool. But if you're interested, growing, and looking to break through wherever you're stuck, you don't have to live there. You don't have to be stuck there. You don't have to stay where you're at. Choose something different. Because if you know the old saying, if you're going to keep doing what you're doing and you can expect a different result, and that's just the truth of it. That's psychosis. That's complete psychosis. That's when your physical age and your emotional age don't add up. You're going to continue living in that psychosis, which is going to prevent you from growing and living an inspired life. And I don't know, I think from all the research I've done, and I teach my children this every single day, and I wouldn't teach you something that I wouldn't teach my kids. That is my integrity. I used to get very pissed off with a lot of my mentors who were personal development gurus and asking them, like, why do you guys teach this stuff when it's not going to work? And they used to tell me, they're like, well, you're just a young doctor. You shut up and mind your own business. And I was like, man, you're going to crash because that's all money based. So I wouldn't teach you anything that I don't teach my kids. And if you've been to any of my programs, you will see my children. I'm doing a program in Memphis in a few weeks. My children will be at that program, not sitting in the back playing on video games, taking notes. Because they learn, they're students. They sit in the Delta Experience, which is my higher level program, only in my Aligned Mastery program. They sit there and they learn from it. So I won't teach you stuff that's not real. That's not my MO. That's not who I am. So with that being said, just let me read some of these comments that have been here. Tennille, I love Tennille. She's amazing. She says, boom, because what you do works. I'm still using the tool. You're amazing. Oh, thank you. All these great words. PJ, appreciate it. Wanda, always a pleasure having you on here. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, just comment on the video and I'll try to get to them as soon as I can. But appreciate you guys spending some time with me. Hope this has been of value to you. I'm going to be doing a lot more videos. I'm going to be doing a lot more Q&A as well. I'm bringing some interviews on here. Also, I'm going to be doing some just popping in live. So keep your eyes and ears open and Ask Me Anything sessions, which I did in the Art of Chasing Success group. If you guys aren't a member of the Art of Chasing Success group, I urge you to join that as well. It's just, I have a lot of videos in there that I do for that group that I don't do out here. But if you're interested in scheduling a breakthrough call as well, get on a call with one of my enrollment coaches. Let's get you through the barrier that's stopping you. I promise you that we're going to provide value on that call. There's no sales pitch on it. If it's and I'll be transparent with you. Of course, I do have programs in that. And if it's something that you think is of value to you, and I think you're a good candidate, or my team thinks you're a good candidate, they may ask you. If not, they won't. And it's cool. And we just provide value, and you go take the information and you go on your way. But my point is don't stop yourself from growing. Just go to alignmastery.com and they'll put the webinar and all that. There's a free webinar here that you can do too. So with that being said, guys, I'll see you in another video. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.